good afternoon, and thank you very much for coming. It's we always have a problem with the weather. Whenever we are having an event, there is beautiful weather outside, and it's very nice to see that so many people on a Sunday afternoon are interested in human rights struggle in Pakistan. So welcome and thanks for coming. The program today, as you see on the slide, the title, it is a tribute to Asma Jahangir, because the recent history of Pakistan and human rights struggle in Pakistan will never be complete without mentioning Asma Jahangir's name, and many others who fought with her for all kinds of human rights in Pakistan. And they literally dedicated their lives, and lots of rights we enjoy today in Pakistan, and maybe partly some other countries. Really, a lot of credit goes to people like Asma Jahangir and many other friends who gave their lives or dedicated their lives to this noble cause. I'm going to take you through a very brief introduction, and then we have three fantastic speakers. I hope you will enjoy it. They will give brief presentations or talk, and we will try to dedicate as much time as possible to the discussions, because it's more important that you ask all kinds of questions, anything you want, but as long as it's within this subject, on this topic of human rights struggle in Pakistan. So let's go. Thanks for coming. And I think because this program is dedicated to Asma Jahangir, I would like to open it with her quote, one of many quotes. And she said, "When there is oppression and dictatorship, by not speaking out, we lose our dignity." And I think it's a very, very deep meaning what she is saying. And she unfortunately had a very short life. But it is really human rights equal human dignity. If there are no human rights, basically we are compromising on human dignity. Don't need to read through all that, but I think you all know very well that she was a terrific human being, very, very strong person. She was a real hardcore human rights activist, and a staunch critic of Hudood ordinance and blasphemy laws. And she started Women's Action Forum. She campaigned against the proposed law of evidence, where the value of women's testimony was reduced to half of that man. And we all remember, I think, some might be too young to remember, but most of us remember during Zia-ul-Haq's time, all those new laws that he introduced in Pakistan. She co-founded and chaired the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, and she was very well known for playing a prominent role in the lawyers' movement, and she also served as the UN's Special Rapporteur on freedom of religion. I mean, we need hours and hours if you want to talk about her and give full introduction about Asma Jahangir, but this is kind of in a nutshell, not even a nutshell, in a peanut shell, what she was about. Before we go into our main part of the program, very brief introduction of OPP, the organizers of this program. And just a reminder, OPP is a platform of the people of Pakistani origin to promote progressive values in a multicultural environment. Our vision is unity in diversity. And our mission is to strive to eliminate exploitation and discrimination through meaningful dialogues. And here we always say the emphasis really on the meaningful dialogues. So we are open to have dialogues, conversations with anyone. We respect every point of view, and we hope that others do the same. Just a quick reminder also, we started, we are into third year of our existence. We had several topics, and I think the interesting things about these topics are we have chosen these topics very democratically. We always throw the list of topics to the public, to the audience, and then they basically decide which topics they are more interested in. And mostly they are these topics which are taboo in our society or among our communities here, and people tend not to speak about these topics. So some of them, you can see them here. Then we had also different events on these topics. Last one was here on this page, Dilemma or Opportunity, Challenges for the Dutch-Pakistani Youth in Reconciling Two Cultures, was very interesting. Then Democracy and Religion, Are They Mutually Exclusive? And you see second review and planning meeting, what we do once a year, we do a review and planning meeting, and we invite lots of supporters and members who basically review the previous year's performance of OPP and then sit down and brainstorm about the planning for the year ahead. And today's event is about the human rights struggle. So back to our today's topic. Start with Elie Wiesel's quote: "Wherever men and women are prosecuted because of their race, religion, or political views, that place must, at that moment, become the center of universe." And yeah, no one less than Nelson Mandela said that so eloquently: to deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. And I think he knows what he's talking about after spending all those years. Now, I will very quickly take you through, before going to our speakers, through the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights article. Why this article is important? Because firstly, it summarizes what this whole thing means, what are human rights and why they are important, and particularly what rights are important. And secondly, it's important because every government, including Pakistan, have signed, they are signatories of this declaration. So if we sign a contract with the world community or international community, we have to obviously live up to it. And lots of these things which are part of the Declaration of Human Rights article, they are also included in the Constitution of Pakistan. So what we are talking about is basically universal laws, universal truths, which the world community subscribes to, plus Pakistani Constitution includes many of these articles as well. The first article, there are 30 in total, and don't worry, I'm not going to read all 30 articles because you will fall asleep. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. The second, slightly longer, and then it's very short after that. Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration, without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. So it really kind of encompasses the basic human rights. Now it's up to you to, at the end of this, to decide how many of these articles and how many of these rights are really being implemented and practiced in Pakistan or in neighboring countries or in other countries. Just if we look at the very simplified highlights of rest of the Human Rights Declaration, the third article, just in serial orders: right to life, liberty, and security. Do we have that? I mean, you all know what's happening on daily basis or weekly basis in our countries. You follow the news, you follow the social media. I mean, the right to life, liberty, and security, it's really highly questionable. No slavery, but we still have slave labor, bonded labor. You see that in Punjab, in Sindh, among the peasants, farmers, how people work. No torture. Okay, no torture. There is torture. Right to recognition everywhere before law. No discrimination. Right to an efficient, effective remedy. No arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. But we see that this is also happening on daily basis. Then it guarantees fair public hearing, which is also questionable. Presumed innocent until proven guilty, but if you look at media trials, first we are proven guilty and then the trial begins. And no interference with anyone's privacy, family, nor attacks on honor and reputation. Reputations are slandered in the media every day. Freedom of movement to leave the place and to return back safely. Seek and enjoy asylum from prosecution, and right to the nationality of the place where you were born. Right to marry with free and full consent. Well, that is sadly, I mean, if you look the statistics of the last couple of years, 15 million young girls under the age of 18 were married. And they were not married they did not marry on their free will, but they were forced to marry either by parents or by Taya, Mamu, Chacha, neighbors, whoever. But they were, and they were not even fully grown up, fully adults according to the law. So these things are there in the bill, in the Constitution, and we have a Women's Protection Bill, we have children's rights, we have all kinds of rights which are written down in the Constitution and in the Human Rights Declaration. But the thing is, they are not being practiced. The practice is really the opposite, and it's very sad. Right to property. I mean, a lot of people living abroad, they know, they buy some property, go, and it has been already sold 5 times. It's the 5th owner when you go to check your property. No deprivation. Freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, including freedom to change religion. Again, don't need to remind you how many places of worships of Ahmadis have been torn down, have been burned down, how many Christians have been prosecuted under false blasphemy charges, couples thrown alive into the fire, burned alive. I mean, we see a lot of things happening there, particularly in this number 18. And it's sad. It's very sad. I mean, no one wants that, but unfortunately they are happening. A kind of atmosphere is created which is so loaded with emotions and hatred and intolerance that no one is really can't even dare to speak what you want to speak or think what you want to think. Freedom of opinion and expression, we see the same, and peaceful assembly. It's guaranteed in the Constitution and here as well. But if you look at student unions, for example, which were banned during Zia-ul-Haq's time, is still not allowed. And it's a very big loss for Pakistan, for our country, because a lot of intellectual people, a lot of political leadership, they emerged from the student unions, but they were forbidden and basically killed. And now you have just gangs of people who rule the universities. I mean, I was reading on one of the social media, one of the internet news website, that on 14th of this month, which is like just a couple of days ago, against what was that day we had, 14th? Against Valentine's Day, in Faisalabad University, they celebrated a kind of Sisters' Day, as opposed to Valentine's Day. And what they did was, they distributed hijabs and burqas and said, this is for our sisters. So whoever wears this is our sister. We will treat them with respect. So what does it mean? That those who don't wear burqa from the next day or don't wear hijab, they are open to, yeah, you can go and have them or get them or kill them or beat them or kidnap them. I mean, what is this? How can you say that? I mean, to balance Valentine's Day, you come up with an honor day or Sisters' Day. So this is what's happening. So there is free, peaceful assembly, trade unions. I mean, if we look at the number of trade unions, which kind of, we had something like 800 something trade unions when Bhutto took over. That shot up to more than 4,800 trade unions. Zia-ul-Haq came, he banned them again. There are no trade unions. There are, but they were allowed by the Supreme Court, then they were banned again, and now the membership of the trade unions is at its lowest. Take part in the government, equal access to public services, it's not happening. You can see that again. I mean, I don't need to quote all the examples because you read them every day. Right to social security, free development of his personality. No, the education is so much kind of restrained into one direction that you don't really have to develop your own personality and develop your own thoughts. You're not even given the opportunity, and children are never encouraged to ask those kinds of questions. Right to work, worthy of human dignity, equal pay, protection against unemployment, and joint trade unions. So these were kind of some of the articles I wanted to read and go through. And we will, after 3 speakers, we will have, as I said, discussions. So I will introduce these 3 speakers one by one to you. And again, like on Asma Jahangir, I have to be very brief because these are people with very, very, very rich backgrounds, huge struggle, huge amount of researches, great experiences, and they will share their thoughts with us. And we are very honestly very fortunate to have today Suzanne with us. And Suzanne is a Pakistan analyst for Dutch media and a researcher. Her focus has been on well-being of Pakistani journalists. The study she did was a collaboration between this university in Amsterdam and National Institute of Psychology in Islamabad. She has basically worked and lived in Pakistan for 7 years, and there was a time when she called Pakistan her second home. And as a correspondent for the Dutch international media, and she did a documentary series which won a very prestigious Peabody Award in 2011. Suzanne, please welcome her. Thanks for coming, and wonderful to have you here. Our second speaker today, is Marian Lucas, and Marian is psychologist of politics, culture, and religion. Then her focus has been on relationship and dynamics between the individuals and their socio-political context. Special interest and experience concerns Pakistan, Kashmir, India, Ethiopia, Somalia, as well as Bosnia and Serbia. She has done a lot of work on Kashmir, by the way. A frequent visitor to the regions to support local and civil societies, she established a Kashmir Documentation and Research Center in Brussels, and she has been a contributor to 2017 Rafto Prize Conference in Norway, honoring Kashmiri human rights defenders. Marianne, please welcome her. And thank you for coming. Thanks for coming. Wonderful to have you. And our last but not least, Khalid Hamid Farouki. I think a lot of people know him. Multimedia journalist, activist, academic, and then I ran out of space. He has done 20 other things. He has been former president of NSF, and I think again, a lot of younger people might not know NSF. NSF was a phenomenon in Pakistan. It was the largest left-wing students' union for many years in Pakistan, which has been led by greats like Miraj Muhammad Khan and Dr. help me his name? Rashid Hassan Khan. So he has been their successor, president of NSF, a fighter against Zia's martial law for democratic rights. So if you lift his shirt, you will see lots of scars on his back. He has been an active fighter against Zia-ul-Haq's dictatorship. He worked as a journalist, or is working for the last 27 years with the Jung, Voice of America, Voice of Germany, and France 24. He is part of Progressive Thoughts, an NGO. He has covered all awards actually given to Asma Jahangir, so he is someone who knew her personally and very closely, so it is very nice to have you, Khalid. He was part of Women Action Forum, an organization started by Asma Jahangir. So very nice to have you, Khalid. So I think the selection we did very carefully and thoughtfully was basically having two persons who have very close associations with Pakistan, but they have visited it frequently, done a lot of research, worked with the people, and live here in Europe. So they have a really good overview of Europe, of the world, plus in that context of Pakistan. And then we have one who really was born and bred in Pakistan. And has a very really first-hand knowledge of the struggle he did. So now, this. So I would like to invite Susanna, if you want to sit down or stay. Let me start your. Nice presentation.
Yeah, that was it. Okay. So thank you for your introduction.
For a moment, everyone thought, oh, this is.
Yeah, it's very intellectual.
Okay.
So I think this needs no mention anymore. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights has Article 26. Everyone has the right to education, and that's what I will talk about. And from there, I will go to what it actually means the state of education in Pakistan and the consequences of it. So here's a couple of kids that I photographed with their, this is the father of some of them, not all of them. This is in Balochistan, in Ziyarat, and I went there in 2005. I was very curious as to what life was on the ground, and this was for my thesis. I studied international journalism, and I had to make some very in-depth articles. So one of my articles was on girls' education. For this I went to Balochistan because it was the place that I could find least information about. And so that was very interesting to me. I asked his father, this was in the morning, normally school hours, and I asked the man why these kids were not in school. And he said, I want to send my kids to school, but does this actually work, or can I just lose it? Or?
No, it is working.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me
Yes.
like this as well? Yeah.
It's more for
No?
streaming.
Oh, for
It
streaming.
is for
Oh,
streaming,
sorry. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, then I'll keep it. Anyways, he said that he wanted to send his kids to school, but normally there was no teacher. He gave me a very broad overview of that a couple of weeks ago. The teacher came from 11 to 1, and it was very irregular, so he didn't really have much faith in it, even though he was interested in it. And his interest actually exemplified studies that had been done on Balochistan, where there had been a huge rise in demand of education. And in that year I also talked to the education minister on the federal level, and he said, yes, there is a huge run on education. That were his words. And you know, this is Pakistan, this is not Netherlands, we can't handle that demand for education. This was 2005. In 1948, Pakistan signed that declaration that everybody has a right to education. That means education should be available to everyone. Even if people say we don't want it, it should be at least available. Anyways, I went with one of the girls, I went to the school that she was supposed to go to. This is a statistic, this is useful for the rest of the discussion. 24 million kids are not in school. That's down 1 million. A year before it was 25 million. About half boys, half girls. But you should also know, and you know, that there's a huge increase in population. So statistically, that doesn't mean very much that it's been reduced, I think. This is what the enrollment looks in Pakistan. So you can see that most kids, they even when they enroll, they don't end the primary school. When they go to high school, I mean, the number becomes less and less and less. So even the kids that have been to school have very rudimentary knowledge. For girls and boys, I don't know whether you expected it to be more disparate, but what I've seen also from studies, but also from many interviews throughout the countries, is that the people who want to send their children to school, they are generally interested in sending both girls and boys to school. So that wasn't this way before. It was much more difference. So what does Pakistan spend on education as per percentage of the GDP? It's about 2.7 or so. It varies here and there. Afghanistan spends more, China spends less, India spends more, Netherlands spends much more. Netherlands is up there with most European countries, Northern America. It's a normal expenditure in this part of the world. And from looking at these figures, we can't really maybe understand why the enrollment is so low, because Afghanistan spends more, and enrollment is pretty low there as well, probably lower. So there's more to it. And this is the school I just wanted to talk about with the girl. She showed me that this is what the school looks like. There's nobody there. And nothing is happening there. And the interesting thing is that this is according to the government, this is a functioning school with teachers. This is what they call a ghost school. In Balochistan, about 900 ghost schools. Overall in the country, I don't know. What you should know about all these figures is that there are no national consensus surveys on all of these things. There are projects here and projects there, there are estimates, not everything is reported, there's no central database. But you can get a good grip on how the situation is in general by combining all these reports. I went to the local education officer and I asked him why there were schools in his district that were not functioning. And he said that there are supposed to be teachers, but they're not showing up. I said, what are you doing about it? He said, I can't do anything about it. I said, you can stop the payment of these teachers. It's very simple to me. I was just in Pakistan. I was as Western thinking, logical thinking, but now I understand these things much better. And I could have made an answer up for him, but he said he tried to stop the payments, but the local MP said, if you stop the payments, I will transfer you. And transferring means that, sometimes I'm talking, and I think I'm talking to a Pakistani audience. Maybe lots of the things I'm saying you already know, and it's like common sense. So I really don't have a good feel for whether I'm saying things that are common sense, so you can stop me there if need be. But in any case, a transfer means going out of your combined home, you're not being paid that much, being out of your social security. So not a very nice outlook for him, and for him enough pressure to just continue the payments to these teachers. And this is not just this one school, as I said, it's just happening all over. Sindh has a huge problem with this as well. Another problem is, and it's very surprising, you might think, is that Punjab, for instance, for years on end has been underspending the budget that has been given for education. So already there is very little money to spend for education, and the money that there is not being spent. The NWFP, for instance, has spent the money, but one of the problems that are being cited is that there's a lot of red tape in getting these funds, actually, getting them to do something with it. Now, that's an obstacle, that's red tapeism, it's difficult, but there's no reason not to bring that up in, for instance, a debate in the parliament. And that's not happening as far as I can tell. I haven't seen these debates. In fact, this is such a national emergency. It's surprising that this is not on front page news, because it's also news when nobody thinks it's news. Then again, news has to be out of the ordinary. It's very out of the ordinary. Now this is for our further discussion. I could take some other budget as well, but this is the most catchy one, and that's the military budget. For the next fiscal year, it has a 20% rise to 1.1 trillion rupees. And that's not including a lot of stuff, so the actual budget is higher. Military hardware is not included in this. The pensions are not included in this, and it's also very interesting. Look at the 76% that's going to pensions of army people. There's teachers who work for the government, there's medical people working for the government. 25% is going to them. That also tells you something about where the priorities of the government are, and I do recognize, obviously, as all of us do, that there are threats, but still, this is something to wonder. Also, this budget is not discussed in Parliament. I think I have colleagues here who know much better than I do how that goes. Sometimes it's mentioned by senators. Raza Rabbani, for instance, is very strong on these things. but it's just not coming through. And then there's contingent liabilities. Nobody knows where that's going to. It's certainly going to the army, but how much we don't know. And the last budget had a special assignment for 4.5 billion, also army related. Nobody knows where it went to. Now sometimes we get a glimpse of spending. Yeah, that's the question. Do you remember the 20-day festival sit-in? It's caused huge economic losses, human lives. They spent 270 million rupees on law enforcement. And you all know the protest, right? Is there anybody who doesn't? Yeah. Yeah, you know, yeah. Okay, so, yeah, okay. So, you also have seen these pictures, army handing out money to people to go back to their homes. Very nice that they can go back to their homes, but there's many other demonstrations who are not being treated that nicely. There was a hunger strike in Karachi about missing persons, and they were forcefully taken away. You might remember Mama Kadir, who tried to walk from Balochistan to Islamabad. He was stopped at several points along the way. He was also attacked by unknown people, and there was not much protection there for him. And it's sometimes when I say these things, it depends on where I am and which people are in front of me. They say, yeah, you're against the army. No, I'm not against the army. I do recognize that an army is necessary, and that's in every country, but I do still find it very unacceptable that there is countries, and believe me, there are countries where it's even worse and more shrouded in mystery, that we don't know where the money is going to. Now, I've brought a couple of videos because the fact of the matter is, when education has no importance, so there are no shining lights to guide people, there is other people who are going to guide people, and that's the people who just amass some status in the society. How can I open this? If I click on that,
yeah, just click.
Oh, okay. This is an adversary of. Yeah, it should actually go a little bit. I didn't. Yeah. So you will see. Yeah. It has to stop, I think. Yeah.
Oh, you're playing from there. Okay.
How can I return this? So this is the sister of Asha Bibi, Najmi. I filmed her in 2010, I think. I don't remember exactly which year. Yeah, below. Oh, you have to. Can I see it? Yeah. Oh, you don't see this camera.
Yeah, exactly. That's
This is something that you didn't anticipate. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
ਸਾਡੀ ਜਾਨ ਵੀ ਚਲੀ ਜਾਵੇ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਨਸ਼ਾਅੱਲਾ ਲੜਨੋਂ ਪਿਛਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹਟਣਾ ਜੇ ਅਗਰ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਮਾਫੀ ਹੋਵੇ ਤਾਂ।
So this is their house.
हर वेले असीं ओहदे बस सोचदे रहिदा कि ओहदा की बनना की होना की नहीं साडी कोई जिंदगी बदली बल्कि असीं ते ना होया वर्गे कुछ लोकां ने गल्लां सुन के।
So she did you all understand? Yeah. Okay. I find it very hard. It's very difficult for me. But anyways, what struck me about what she said is that she says it's like we are those that do not exist, and it's so striking because it sort of sums up the status not only of them but of women in relation to men in certain situations. So this is why I wanted to show this. There was. Did it stop now? Or?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Well, I also filmed the imam that basically charged Asia. He was very happy that the court took up his case, and basically he is now being charged himself. Asia has, after all these years in prison, has been freed by the Supreme Court. But that doesn't mean that these cases are diminished. They have increased incredibly, and the more space there is for people like that, the more people who can jump into this void of lack of knowledge, the more this comes up, and the smaller the space becomes for people who can talk about what religion means, can discuss about it, what actually does it say in the Quran, is it correct, that can be criticized, even in, for instance, universities. You already talked about it, student unions, but also within classrooms. Teachers have also in the last 10 to 20 years become more and more careful about speaking about certain things, even things that are remotely related, just because there might be a chance that they are being sort of somehow linked to blasphemy. And that's just very scary. Now, what happens to people who do speak out, because they are there as well? Sorry about this. We see a very small screen, and then we have to figure out where this. Yeah. So this is the wife of Dr. Farouk. He was very well known
I
in
think it
Wardan.
was a gradual process, and the situation in all over Pakistan was getting bad. So he said that we must tell the people what they are trying to do and what will be the result if they come into power.
He was very determined to make sure that the truth comes forth and that people learn about the fact that Islam is nothing but a message of peace. And the people who are trying to present a picture of Islam which is different from that are actually doing a great disservice to the cause of Islam. That is what he was always motivating him to move across, to write, to speak, to talk to people.
We used to have fights with him that we don't have to do this, you have proved everything you had to do. But he said, no, this is my mission, I have to do this. This is what I was probably brought on this earth for. I have to educate the people of this country. And he used to say, if not us, then who?
So this man who enlightened many hearts died also because of that. Extremists killed him. And the man you saw in the video who spoke about his friend, that was actually his friend, but he also was at the Lahore University, and he gave religious classes. And well, he could discuss about Islam and what it meant and everything. He's no more in the country because also he had threats to his life. And this is also a trend that's been going on for, I'd say, at least 15 years or so. People that are speaking out are either being killed or leaving the country, and he's now running this from Canada. But of course it doesn't have the same impact as being in Pakistan, but then if you're dead you don't have, you can't do anything at all. So that's very sad. Now I also want to talk to you about what education can do, because it's a very gloomy picture what you're getting here. And why I am still involved in Pakistan, you said it was like my second home. I used to consider it as my second home. To be honest, I still do, because when I'm there, I feel, I have many friends there. I grew up there in a certain way. It came there when I was in my 20s. So there's something also that's keeping me there, and that is a hope or a belief in what can happen. If it's all hopeless, then it's sort of, it comes too gloomy to bear, and that's why I want to show you this following video, because education has done some good.
sisters, they are just cooking and they are just obeying their husbands, their brother, their fathers.
video should
They
be
can't do
running.
anything independently. They just
No.
say whatever the man is said, is this is right, they can say it.
No, yeah, this is the, yeah.
Back.
Is the next one?
No, this is the one?
This
No,
is the one, this is the one.
no, this is not the one, this one. No,
Hang on.
yeah, this one.
This.
This is for Zana, and
Oh.
no,
Went back.
and maybe it's not working because it's a heavy file, high quality, so maybe
I said-
that's
Oh, we
sometimes
just started.
difficult. But I'll tell about what education can do when it reaches people. You still want to try it, or?
Yeah, I wanted to try, no, I went back all the way.
So I'm just gonna try
Was
to
this one?
capture, no,
No,
the one
previous one.
before.
No, went back. Oh, that's what's happening. This one.
Shall we try it in the screen? Maybe that will work.
Yeah. That's what I think, but it should- Actually, you should just click on the screen, it should run in fact.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna try it, see if it goes here. From here.
And just as importantly, her father agreed. He saw his elder daughter struggle to cope with their in-laws and says he decided girls should be more educated and mature before marrying. Farzana is now the first woman with a job in her family. She's a human resource and customer relations manager at a local Honda dealer. She lives with her brother and finances his studies.
I'm enjoying with my work, I'm enjoying with my employees, I'm happy to satisfy the people, I'm very happy to support the others.
Farzana is one of an estimated 7 million women that have joined Pakistan's workforce in the last 10 years. 1 in 4 Pakistani women now works.
One thing is they're better educated now. Since they're more educated, their cost of time, I'll say the opportunity cost of their time is also very high. So this, the families and also the economic pressures within the households will force them to work if they are educated.
Farzana's uncle says she's brought shame upon the family by working with unrelated men and earning money. It makes the family look impoverished. But Farzana says she has come too far to turn back.
I will do marry with a person who he will allow me to work. Because I just want to work for my whole life.
She plans on taking her freedom to the next
We
level.
see her in the car. We can stop it here.
With the help of
She can drive now perfectly and very safely. But this is what education can do. And this, as the video said, she's one of 7 million women. And now what has sparked that rise also, I can give you another nice example. I used to, I'm very bad with my phone. We have a terrible relationship, so I need to go to Mobilink a lot to get something fixed or get something figured out. When I used to go, it was full of men, and I found it always a bit scary also, because it was just, you know, it was not very customer friendly. That idea hadn't really started. When you go to Mobilink now, for instance in Islamabad, it's 50-50, women, men, and my go-to person is a woman from KP somewhere. I know that she told me she was the first woman to work in her family. She found out she was very good with phones. She's at least very good with my phone. She has this special side section in the office to fix people's phones, because she has this special designation because she's so good at it. So education also brings out some of the abilities that women have, and it brings also about some power with them within the household. When they bring money, they can also decide what to do with it, or have a say in the household's decisions, and hopefully perhaps also about, you know, how many babies they will have and stuff like that. I'm not sure about my time.
It's up.
It's up, right? Yeah. I'm always doing that. Yeah. You know, we can always turn back to this. I just want to say one more thing in favor of the government. There is this quota for women in parliaments, and that has really done great wonders for the visibility of women. Now, women were not really taken seriously on these seats, but what happens is that women who were on these seats felt they should compete on general seats the next time. And so this is one of the women that does this, and it increases the visibility. So she's going to houses, to women that have never seen a candidate before. So although you can have a lot of criticism on all of this, it is something with this visibility, this sector, the media, that helps women and girls and families realize that education is important, and also for women. Yeah.
Thank
So.
you. I think very enlightening and good observations and analysis, and I think if I may kind of, what I took out of it is that the lack of education or denial of access to knowledge creates a huge vacuum among our younger generation, and then they become vulnerable to all kinds of manipulation and thoughts. And if education is stimulated and promoted, then people can really rise above all these prejudices, and they can play a meaningful role in their lives. And there is hope, so which is always a good news.
I think so.
Yeah.
Do you like to...
The microphone. Well, thank you. My contribution will be a bit maybe more about politics than about human rights, but it is mixed. Of course, it is very strongly related. First of all, let me see. I brought something for you. Last week, no, it was, yes, on 5th of February. I was speaking in the Pakistan House, Pakistani Embassy in The Hague, on Kashmir Solidarity Day, and I brought with me for that speech this cap, the Jinnah cap. Maybe of course you know it all, but I happened to see this also in the newspaper, and it is the cap of my father. And I remember him wearing that, and he said it's my Jinnah cap, and he loved it very much. And I never asked him, oh, how, what is that Jinnah cap? As a child, I didn't know, but I remember him and having this because I saw it in Pakistan, and also the Kashmiri leaders also have it, like the old Farooq Abdullah, for example. And well, as a child, I never asked him how does he get the cap and why did he wear it. I only know that he was very much interested in 1947 in what happened in Asia when, well, Pakistan and India got independence from the British imperialism, and that was 2 years after the war that he was himself, experiencing, of course, in the Netherlands in the World War II. So he was very much interested in how would that be in Asia for people's freedom? Would I also be liberated from in fact occupation as he saw it from the British colonialism? And then okay, I had this cap, and then I thought I come to you today, and I bring another cap because this is a cap from my generation, so to say. This is what I brought with me, and also this shirt. This I brought with me on a visit in 2010, I think. That was Imran Khan was on the streets. He was, this blockade, it was everything, and then I took it, and I in those days it was not. We couldn't predict that he now would be, leading the country, and I saw these mark also a different timetable, I think now, and well, I'm happy I have this, but I also wonder what will come next, and this is the time, and I feel I cannot give that many statements about what I think is happening now, but I'm eager to discuss with you what you think is happening now, what you think the future will bring. I have a lot of papers that I saved, like caps from my visits, and also when I was here to follow the news in Pakistan. And for example, something typical. This is Gert-Jan Romansen. He's a colleague of yours, I think, then Pakistani, a Dutch journalist in Pakistan. And it is from 2007, and it says from coup to coup in Pakistan. You know, so it's in fact it says, you know, Pakistan is going through many different time areas. So what will happen? What is the situation now? What will happen next? From coup to coup. Well, this was not a coup. It was through elections. Well, we can discuss elections another time, but it was through elections that Imran Khan is elected. And what I now want to focus a little bit at is on the question, well, now who is pulling the strings? It's a bit controversial question, maybe, but it is important to see what is happening now in Pakistan, what will happen in the future, and also to relate it to my last visit to Pakistan, which was in, let me say, 8 December last year. On 8th of December last year, I was in Islamabad, in Serena Hotel, because of a big Kashmir conference. And conference, it was organized 8th December, not really because of International Human Rights Day on 10th of December, but also because there was, maybe you heard about that, a report of the United Nations. For the first time, United Nations report on human rights violations in Kashmir. That was the High Commissioner had edited this report, and it was the first ever on Kashmir, and that was discussed in Islamabad. It will be discussed tomorrow and after tomorrow in Brussels, not in a hearing, but in an exchange of views. They say it between a representative of the High Commissioner and members of European Parliament in Brussels. So that report, because of that report, I went to Islamabad on 8th of December last year. This question, who is pulling the strings, that is also a question what is now, in fact, very basic to how Europe relates to Pakistan. And in Europe, in the European Union, there are think tanks, but the think tank that is related to European Parliament and European Commission, that is a think tank. They publish fact sheets with information for the Parliament and the Europeans, to feed them with information to make their decisions. And I want to quote from one fact sheet on Pakistan. That fact sheet that was published just shortly before elections and last year, and it says, okay, it's about the post-election challenges facing Pakistan. It says, a main challenge for the forthcoming Pakistani government, so the government at present, of Imran Khan, is the chronic dualism between political and military power. There are two de facto power centers, that is the government in Islamabad and the armed forces in Rawalpindi, just 30 kilometers away. It's not new for you, but it's just that I quoted from the formal documents in Europe. This situation prevents civilian institutions from taking direct control of the state and moving forward on topics such as relations with India, which remain strained and volatile. Military intelligence agencies play an increasingly pronounced and controversial role. That is how Europeans, at least the formal, think tanks in Europe, look at Pakistan. And I think this is the basic, how might I say, mantra almost. And the question is, is this still correct? Is it still, how can you see it? Can you discuss it? Can you break it? Can you change it? But this is, I think it's very important to see, this is still the basic concept through, or the mirror through which Europe looks at Pakistan. I think you can look at it, you can analyze it like that, but at the same time you must see the situation as it is now in Pakistan. There is a new government, there is a lot of people voted for this government with new hope to see that changes are there. And when I was in Pakistan, I must say that I felt I felt that hope when I was there. People had, they said, well, we know that things will not change overnight, but we must have some patience. We must believe that something can change. There's it is possible, and so that was from the people that I met, in the participants in the conference, for example, but also in the streets, in the bookshops where I was. And an example was, let me see, I had to write it down. Oh yes, I was in Koshar Market, the Koshar Market, where Salman Taseer was killed, on that spot. And yes, only some 7 years ago he was killed there, murdered. And in that Koshar Market, I was having a nice tea and coffee with some friends, and there was some music. A girl was singing, and there was some jazz on the streets. And people, they were so happy, and not only because of the music, but also they say, well, on this spot, how this proves a change. We couldn't just sit outside with a coffee and have this music with this girl singing beside us. And I said, what do you mean? Yes, well, then immediately the mullahs would come, or anybody would say that it's not possible. And so there was some change in the air, and I said, well, what do you think more about this? Yes, they say it's also because Imran Khan, that he put in jail all these mullahs who were on the streets, when they protested against the release of Asia Bibi. And people knew a lot has to be done more, but at least they felt some kind of hope. And then I felt, I must say, I met Imran Khan that was in 2005, I think, the earthquake disaster in Azad Kashmir, and then I went with him in his car. And he was then still a nobody, so to say, he was, and I also a nobody, so we was together in the car, and he was talking, and I thought, it's nonsense what he's talking about, the United States, etc. And we had a political quarrel, so to say. But I lost what I wanted to say. Yeah, okay, oh yeah, so about the change and the hope, and then I thought, well, he is there now, and I still have my doubts. Yes, that's what I want to say. I still have my doubts, but let's see what all the people, who voted for him, what do they expect, and who am I to say you are wrong? No, I want to listen. I want to listen. What do you expect, and what do you do now to get what you expected, and how long will you have that patience to wait for that, and how will you push him to make sure that you get what you voted for? And that was very strong. And there was one man, he said, I am a businessman, and I am doing business with a foreign country, and I voted for Imran Khan, and he is a good man because now, once he is elected, I registered myself to pay tax. And I said, you are a businessman, you didn't pay tax so far. No, he said, no, because I didn't trust, you know, what I would do with tax money. And now I have the confidence, I register myself, I pay tax, and now I have hope for the future. You know, and these kind of stories were there. At the same time, and now coming back to where my question is, who pulling the strings? I want to read my notes, what I noted down after my Kashmir conference in Islamabad. I was very happy to be invited to go to Islamabad, to be there again, and to meet these people, what I talked about now. And I thought on that conference, Shireen Mazari was talking, and Shireen, I know her from a long time ago. In 2004, I met her first time in Washington, and she was a very die-hard on Kashmir at that time. But in the meantime, okay, she joined the Imran Khan's party, and she was now there to defend the steps forward on Kashmir. And I thought, you know, this is very. If this is the new, you know, the sound of the government steps forward on Kashmir, then it's interesting. So that she was one of the main speakers on the conference, and I was in the conference. And then when I came back, then I made some notes because I found out it was not the only conference happening in Pakistan. Some personal notes on my trip to Pakistan. I noted them down. There were a lot of Kashmir functions in Islamabad. It was from the Pakistan House, the think tank. It was from the APHC, the leaders of the Kashmiri struggle. Of the president of Azad Kashmir had his function. Mushahid Hussain had his function. And universities had their functions, a lot of functions. And then I thought, why is so many functions, you know, if they want to make a step forward? And then I think they all compete for attention and claim to be the father of the UN report. You know that success has many fathers and failure has only one mother. And then I thought this UN report, instead of being taken as a tool forward, I thought the UN report became merely a tool for propaganda and rhetorics, so that nothing changed. Because if something changed on Kashmir, a lot has to be changed. Has to change. I think you understand what I mean to say in that this Kashmir is the core in Pakistan status quo, I think. And then I think I said Shireen Mazari has a strong statements about the UN report. She said, for example, I want to visit Pakistan, Azad Kashmir, Pakistan, India, and we have the support she needs to have, you know, to make steps forward, to make the government make steps forward. And then I also saw that, so that was my question, her political support, but also my question about the support of the leaders of the Kashmiri struggle. And then I saw, you know, how do they cooperate with each other? You know, is it? And then I think there are so many factors that have to cooperate and to coordinate, so to make steps forward in not only Kashmir but in Pakistan. And I felt very sad about. First, very happy to see this positive hope of the people, you know, it's looking at what the changes, and then feeling sad about these roadblocks that I see make the change. Well, and then all in all, I think, yeah, you know, who is now pulling the strings, and are they working together, or are they blocking each other? You know, and that is the sadness about. Well, this is also not new, about what people's hope and those in power who have to make this hope, for change, to realize that change. Well, I think the rest I leave for the discussion, that we have the time to discussion. That I think what is important also to see Pakistan. Well, I focus on Kashmir. I'm sorry, but Kashmir is my entrance to Pakistan in the last years. But I think Kashmir, Pakistan, and then the whole geopolitics, because Pakistan now, well, you have Iran, Afghanistan, India, China. Now, you know that the Arab king is visiting Pakistan. Tomorrow there will be a national holiday. Why? Because everything is closed, everything is blocked, nobody can move, nobody's, because of this king. Yesterday I called a friend in Pakistan. I said, "Oh, are you going to hike?" Because he was hiking every Sunday in Margala Hills, and he said, "No, I cannot go to Margala Hills now. I cannot hike." I said, "Why?" He said, "Everything is blocked. All roads are blocked because of this king, and Monday there's a national holiday because of this king." So, and then I think, okay, who is coming? Is this the new friendship? Is Pakistan? It is geopolitics and having the neighbors. Who how is this position of Pakistan among these neighbors? Can Pakistan choose the friends or will friends choose Pakistan, or and who will choose who and why? And on what conditions? So it is also the geopolitics, of course, that is very important to always have in mind when we talk about what is happening on the ground, what is possible on the ground in Pakistan. But so far, I will want really to hear from you what's this, that I can learn from you, because I think now, it is enough so far.
Thank you. I think Marianne gave us a ray of hope, and she's a bit upbeat and optimistic about Pakistan, and I think we all need a bit of optimism, and let's see how things evolve, as you were saying, in a broader context, also in a geopolitical situation. Khalid.
Thank you very much. Organization of Progressive Pakistanis here. We have been organizing excellent workshop or seminars, and let me begin with that we all should remain hopeful. Hope is a sign of existence of life. I never lose hope. I'm follower of Mandela and many others heroes who never lost hope in 25 years of Robben Island jail. So Pakistan is a society and a country of dynamic people. This is a strong civil society there. When we talk to women, there are women deprived in Pakistan, but we have heroes like Asma Jahangir, Benazir Bhutto, Malala Yousafzai. These are all Pakistanis. They never, as brave as ever, Pakistani woman. And my association with Asma Jahangir more than 25 years. I came to know her when I was in school and used to participate in women action forums, protest against martial law of Zia-ul-Haq. And this association with Asma Jahangir is have been source of inspiration, will remain source of inspiration, will always give us courage. My whole family, my sisters, mothers, all joins hand in a struggle because of inspiration from this sort of people who really fight. But you see, I have covered, and Marianne knows that whenever she had very special relationship with the Netherlands as well. Asma Jahangir would come here often. She got Thousand Penny Award here, and I had interviewed that time Asma Jahangir, and I was it was the time when Nawaz Sharif was toppled by Musharraf, and we were all disillusioned, disappointed with Nawaz Sharif, and sort of 7-point agenda Musharraf brought. We were hopeful for that, though I was never a supporter of any military dictators. But that was so much disillusionment that we were deceived by new hope. So we forget for the time being that military dictatorship will never bring, in the past, never brought any good to Pakistan. But I challenge on that account Asma Jahangir, and I told her that this is the civilian government, and the corruption and the incompetence. But so Asma Jahangir was very clear on democracy. That was the lesson for me as a journalist. She was very adamant, she was very persistent, and she was very knowledgeable, because she was commander from the ground, and I was living here, I was studying that time at the ISS, and I really was confused, and many Pakistani also. But that was the lesson for me from Asma Jahangir. Then I met her on many occasions. Last time we met in London on Faz Mela, and I also gave a speech there, and I was very vibrant, like a revolutionary. So she said to me that you should be ready to, you are challenging that you would fight for democracy till the last drop of your blood, so you should be ready and come to Pakistan and fight, because that time she explained what's going to happen in Pakistan. But before that, in Sweden, we had 4 days together with Arundhati Rai and Asma Jahangir. She got Livelihood Award there. It is Alternative Nobel Prize, they call in Swedish Parliament. So that, so Asma Jahangir have been source of inspiration. And what is now, basically, she had gone in time we needed her most, and she is gone. But how we can really replace her, that we should continue with our struggle. Asma Jahangir's life is life of as a political activist and human rights activist, as an engagement. She kept engaging establishment of Pakistan. That was the, she created a space within a Pakistan by engaging government. And she became that sort of paramount personality that it was very difficult for establishment to kill her or arrest her, because she became so paramount. Though she had, Pakistan, if you see, she was not the only one who was like Asma Jahangir. There is a number of women in Pakistan of her stature, but she crossed all of them because her political understanding of the system, and she knows how to carry the struggle, how she can secure minority right, how can she secure and gain more right for women, how she can wage constitutional war against the establishment, rather confronting but engaging them all the time. And she fought basically legal battle internationally and nationally. She was rapporteur of United Nations on freedom of religion. Then she was sole protector of Ahmadi community, Christian community, destitute, poor women. So that is her strength, was engagement. Mr. Bhatti and many of us in this room, we have been fighting, confrontationalist. I went to prison, I was very hard revolutionary, confronting all the time, fighting all the time, not flexible on the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of minority, democracy, a democratic right. We fought all life. 35 long years, many times in jail, I and my colleague fought. Now we should really think a new paradigm, which is conceived by Asma Jahangir. That is the paradigm of engagement. And we should look really how much we can achieve through engagement. We should be result oriented, not only confrontationist. What we are gaining through our struggle. Pakistan going through one of the worst time when it comes to freedom of press. Now, I'm a journalist, I tell you, this is the worst time in history of Pakistan when it comes to journalism. Direct advice, direct pressure, direct articles dropped. 50% of our work doesn't publish because it's not, what we write is not acceptable. News, whole world broadcasts the news, but Pakistani television and newspaper cannot even print that news. That is the time we are going through. What to do? Pakistani journalists in thousands out of job. Pakistani journalists in thousands on the street, confronting. We have on the one side, newspaper establishment, owners. On the other side, we have information ministry, both conspiring against Pakistani journalism. We are on the road to destruction. This is the basic, what sort of society Pakistan want to build, the present government want to build. The society, like a China, Malaysia model, controlled press, press advises. What should be print? It should be patriotic. What is the contradiction between patriotism and truth? Journalism stand on truth, objectivity. Patriotism stand, or nationalism stand on populism, sometimes fascism. We had seen in Europe the result of fascism, controlled press. We have seen result of populism in Europe. Are we ready to learn anything? Or we think, because some people, they think sincerely, the only road, a dictatorial regime, discipline on the top, because the people are not wise enough to elect their leaders. You will see, you have been witnessing that people openly say, people are ignorant, people are not educated, they cannot really elect their leaders. They cannot, this is the Oriental mentality, like they cannot represent, they must be represented. We are more the wise, we are more intelligent. Educated people must have top, bottom approach. You see, we built a leader on the top, he decides because he is wise. He has establishment. Bureaucracy is more educated. They come through examination. They are the best of the best, elite of the elite. If 70 years elite of the elite have been ruling this country, what is the result? Pakistan have been living on foreign aid. Pakistan is not really able to generate food for 222 million. This is lie that Pakistan is rich in soil. It can produce this and that. We know $300 billion is small economy. This country we are sitting here, this is $800 billion economy for 16 million people. We are 222 million people and we cannot increase our economy, the size of our economy so tiny, less than Denmark, Sweden, small countries. Pakistan is a poor country, but we still have democratic credentials, civil society, sizable education class. You throw a lot of light on education. We can increase education, but there is no seriousness to increase in education because everybody knows. I don't have to explain to you why education is not priority of elite, why health is not priority of the elite. This is a class. Without class, there is no politics. This is ruling elite. Whether it is Muslim League Nawaz, Pakistan People's Party or Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, this is battle among elite. Is nothing to do with us. Who talks about our schools, universities and colleges? This is all for the propaganda purposes. One government comes, it said it will convert into Prime Minister into university. Where is this? The government came with the promise that it would create 10 million jobs. 1,000 jobs have been not created in the last 6 months. This government came in power with a promise that 500,000 homes will be built. Where we don't see what we are doing. Our Prime Minister is telling us, this is a little bit I want to throw light on economics. What our Prime Minister is telling, when I didn't know the economic situation was so dire. So it means you were not prepared to take over the government. this is the economic. Human rights situation that now government try to improve. Some of very good decision came. But this decision we all know not coming from government. It's nothing to do with civil administration. Asia Bibi release nothing to do with civilian administration. Mullahs inside is nothing to do with. This same mullah was encouraged by establishment in the past to topple the government in the past. So there is a power which can control everything. Which is one, it is just they can use their puppet whenever they want. Whenever they want, Pakistan is silent. Whenever they want, Pakistan in turmoil. Whenever they want, anti-democratic movement started. Whenever they want, pro-India movement or Kartarpur borders or very good relation with India. Whenever they want, India is a very big neighbor. They wage war. If you see television and do content analysis of television, you will see there is a Carrie Logar bill. It is like every television is speaking. But what we see after 2 months, Carrie Logar bill completely wipe out from the media, wipe out from the discussion and conversation. There is somebody who said to TV, there is a control, and we are against that control. We want freedom of speech, we want freedom of writing, we want freedom of religion, and democratic institutions' credentials must be respected. And people of Pakistan struggle for human rights is this, that what society we want to build, a democratic, healthy society with civil society, with freedom of press, or we want to build controlled society, controlled by elite, and some people can speak, some people cannot speak. Some content can be published, some content cannot be published. So that is Asma Jahangir model is remain engaged. I would like to remain engaged. I work for largest television network and newspaper. I want to remain. I don't want to confront on that scale that I completely resign from it. We should continue, but we should really push that much that very big bang doesn't come from there. So we must have a policy of Asma Jahangir, who had right to travel. Her passport was not confiscated. You can blame her. This is tantamount to be pro-establishment. Some radical can say that she had right to speak, she had right to travel, she was secure. So not because she was tactful. We must be tactful to continue our human rights struggle. You see, little bit, I would like to have a couple of minutes. If you see history of Pakistan, 1947 to 58, biggest Pakistani newspaper, Pakistan Progressive Papers Limited, PPL, that newspapers was taken over by first martial law by Ayub Khan of Mia Takharuddin. That is the destruction they did with our country. Press is the first defending line. Then they think they can manufacture inside concern. They can force journalists to write on international relations according to Pakistan's foreign policy formulated by non-government agents, and then the come a little bit calm period, or people were told 58 to 68, this is the golden period of Pakistan economics development. Where this economic development gone basically? Every government said, but when next government come, they said economic situation is dire, and our television continuously shift the position. As soon as dictator come, we are all in line, or all of us are in jail. It started 47, 54, all Pakistani intellectuals were in jail. In 60s, 63, 62, big movement, all student leader or in jail. Then calm period of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto come, democracy, some democratic credentials were shown, but also 6 newspapers under Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was shut down, if we remember, journalists again on the street. Then Zia-ul-Haq come. So we face lashes, we face thousands upon thousands journalists in jail. Biggest movement in 1978, journalists, 1 year they run this movement. Then 20 years of this musical chair of democracy and martial law, Then the Musharraf come. And you see every time you come, like you said, the hope. Believe me, hope, not concrete. This is hope with the propaganda. Within a month, they can have opposite propaganda, what they were really doing 2 months prior to new propaganda. So now Pakistani economy, we have collected $6 billion from our friends in the Middle East, but same time, we are going to lose a bigger chunk of Western countries' help now. Investment. I cover last 10 years, I have been covering Davos, World Economic Forum, the major gathering of investors. Prime Minister didn't come this year because not a single investor was ready to meet him. That is, we lost. We have been told that Saudi Arabia $10 billion spending in Gawada. Or now what's happening in Pakistan? That all media is shut up to talk single criticism on Zille Sobhani, the king, the future king. They have been stopped to any negative, even social media have been stopped. The people are threatened. So that is because he is investing $10 billion or $21 billion almost. But he is same time investing $44 billion in India. But we cannot say this. People cannot protest. Journalists cannot protest Khashoggi's murder in Istanbul embassy of Saudi Arabia. So that is society. We must remain engaged. We must not push because they are too powerful. But we must stand for our right and convince and convince and convince and follow Asma Jahangir's courage, but same time engagement with the establishment. Thank you very much.
I mentioned in his introduction that he was a fighter. I think I didn't understate anything. But thank you very much. If you guys want to grab a cup of coffee again, and then we start question answer discussions, but just be very quick, because we really now want to dedicate about 1 hour on questions and answers and discussions.